Good evening from New York. I'm Lawrence O'Donnell in for Keith Olbermann. If last night Sarah Palin, Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, and the rest of the Tea Party conservatives were shocked speechless by their defeat in the race for New York's 23rd congressional district, this morning in our fifth story on the countdown, they were trying to frame that humiliating defeat as victory. You know, the kind of victory that Governor Palin enjoyed 1 year ago tonight, the kind of victory that saw a Democrat win that seat in upstate New York for the first time since the Civil War. It's official. Democrat Bill Owens, a first-time candidate, narrowly defeated his conservative opponent, Doug Hoffman, in an upset, 49% to 45%. The Republican, Didi Scazafava, still on the ticket after dropping out over the weekend, took 6% of the vote. Sarah Palin, one of the right-wing Republicans responsible for forcing Ms. Scazafava out of the race, defiant after the loss, or at least in denial, trying to claim on her Facebook page that victory has merely been postponed. Quoting her, "The race for New York's 23rd district is not over, just postponed until 2010. No, Sarah. The election really was yesterday. They really did count the votes last night. You really did lose. Big time. No kidding. Just like last year." Other conservatives, meanwhile, are claiming that Hoffman won the race because, and you have to listen carefully, even though Mr. Hoffman actually lost, the moderate Republican, Ms. Scazafava, didn't win either. The executive director of the National Organization for Marriage, which worked to defeat Ms. Scazafava, telling the New York Times, quote, "Our number one goal was to make clear that the Republican Party cannot take someone as liberal as Didi Scazafava and thrust her out on the voters and expect the voters to just accept it." On his radio ramble today, Rush Limbaugh seemed to accept the loss by blaming every Republican except himself for it.
These are my thoughts on New York 23. We cannot forget how this whole thing happened in the first place. There was not a primary. The right message here would indict the way party bosses, Republican Party bosses, and these big thinkers like Newt screwed the whole thing up from the get-go.
Former House Majority Leader Dick Armey, so confident of this failed strategy of having conservatives purge moderate Republicans from the party, that he's planning to do a lot more of it by challenging more than a dozen House and Senate moderates in upcoming races. Mr. Armey called the 23rd just the tip of the spear. Senate Republicans are either embracing the strategy now or giving in. Chairman John Cornyn of the National Republican Senatorial Committee announced today that the committee will not be spending any money in contested primaries. Senator Cornyn telling ABC News, quote, "There's no incentive for us to weigh in. We have to look at our resources." Meanwhile, most commentary about last night's elections has incorrectly focused almost entirely on the Republican pickups in the Virginia and New Jersey governor races. This morning at a press conference, Republican Party Chairman Michael Steele claimed that, quote, "the GOP renaissance has begun." That is the same Michael Steele who endorsed two candidates in the 23rd, first the Republican, then the conservative, and in the process ensured the Democrats' historic victory there. Lots to talk about tonight with our own Howard Fineman, senior Washington correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Good evening, Howard.
Hi, Lawrence.
Howard, we should begin by pointing out, reminding the viewers that there were four big elections last night, two governors, two special elections for the House of Representatives yesterday, won by the Democrats, both of them. One was holding on to a Democratic seat, a moderate Democrat seat in California, that could have been won by a Republican, could have been taken. And the other was this historic victory in the 23rd, taking what had been considered a permanent Republican seat. What are the Republicans thinking today when they look at these congressional wins?
Well, they're trying to avoid looking at them because they have serious implications for the party and for its chances. You know, we're in the baseball season, the end of the baseball season. The Republicans ended up hitting the conservatives ended up hitting a long fly ball to the outfield in the New York 23rd, but it was an out nevertheless. The Democrats picked up the seat, as you said. And as you also said, Rush Limbaugh and others are thinking of every excuse they can. Scozzafava remained on the ballot. The Republicans screwed it up. This and that and this and that. The fact is that Bill Owens won that race after the conservatives' expectations had gotten way ahead of them.
And Howard, to stay with the baseball analogies here, to say that we didn't really lose last night, we just postponed it to 2010, if say, the Yankees were to win the World Series, is the sports press just smarter than the political press? The Phillies would have a real struggle saying, well, we didn't lose, we just postponed this to 2010. And the sports press is kind of sharper than that, aren't they? Yeah,
I think they are. This was a special election, and there will be another election next year. But one of the things we've seen here is that when the conservatives get involved in this way, in a high-profile, high-finance, emotional way, it can change the nature of the local election, and not necessarily to their benefit. They took Doug Hoffman from nowhere. That is true. But they didn't take him over the finish line, and that is the significant thing about that race up in the New York 23rd. We were talking about the governor's races last night, Lawrence, because that was the news we had. But the late news out of New York, and indeed out of California, because that is a swing district out there, has to be somewhat reassuring to the Democrats and a little bit cautionary tale for the conservatives.
Now, Michael Steele, just on his own skills, has not shown himself to be so far a great party chairman, but he seems to have the undoable job of 2009 in American politics. He's trying to hold together a party that is at war with itself. He ended up endorsing two candidates in the 23rd. He is now saying that Tim Pawlenty is wrong to not agree that Olympia Snowe belongs in the Republican Party. Michael Steele thinks Olympia Snowe does belong in the Republican Party. At least this week he does. Going forward, is Michael Steele going to be able to hold on to the notion that Olympia Snowe belongs in this party, or is Sarah Palin going to control the membership roles, the official roles of the Republican Party now?
Well, I've been a little skeptical of this Republican Civil War story. I mean, all major parties have conflicts and fissures within them. But this is a little different, I think, because the conservatives, the grassroots conservatives, through talk radio, through the web, the passion of their organizing, really are the energy in the Republican Party today. And they don't give a hoot what the Washington-based establishment says. The fact that Rush Limbaugh was going out after Newt Gingrich today, I thought was significant. You have a fight going on again, Lawrence, you remember this. In the old days, Newt Gingrich and Dick Armey were fighting with each other when they were members of the Republican leadership of the House. They've now taken it national. Dick Armey's a very smart organizer, and he is a member of the ground forces here, while Limbaugh and Palin and others are sort of up in, strafing, bombing and strafing. That's a pretty powerful combination.
Howard Fineman of MSNBC and Newsweek, as always, many thanks.
Thank you, Lawrence.